we're going to take a pretty wild journey into the human body. We're going to go from the absolute edge of our survival to the incredible untapped potential of a long and healthy life. We'll look at what happens when our bodies are pushed to the breaking point, and then what we can learn when they thrive way beyond what we ever thought possible. It all starts with this fundamental truth, spelled out right here by the FAA. We are creatures of the ground. Simple as that. We're built for life down here at sea level, not for cruising through the stratosphere. So every single time we get on a plane, we're basically visitors in an alien world. And this slide really shows you just how alien that world is. I mean, look at this. At 35,000 feet, which is your standard cruising altitude, the air pressure drops by over 75%. And the temperature, it plummets to 62 degrees below zero. That's colder than a winter day in Antarctica. Without the miracle of a pressurized cabin, that environment is just completely unsurvivable. So, to really get why that is, let's do a quick refresher on our own personal life support system. It's actually a beautifully simple 4-step process, right? We breathe in, oxygen jumps from our lungs to our blood, our red blood cells act like delivery trucks, and that oxygen gets dropped off at every single cell. This whole process, well, it's literally the definition of life. But it has one critical weakness. And that weakness is pressure. See, the real danger at high altitude isn't that there's less oxygen in the air. The percentage is still about 20%, same as on the ground. The problem is that there isn't enough pressure to push that oxygen from our lungs into our bloodstream. And when that transfer fails, the body enters a state called hypoxia, and that's when things start to shut down. Now, here's what's so strange and frankly terrifying about hypoxia. It tricks you. It doesn't hurt. In fact, one of the most dangerous symptoms is a feeling of euphoria, this false sense of well-being. It goes for the brain first, messing with your judgment right when you need it the most. You might not even realize anything is wrong until it's way, way too late. And too late arrives shockingly fast. This table shows something called the time of useful consciousness. That's the tiny window you have to do something, like put on an oxygen mask, before you're totally incapacitated. At 35,000 feet, you've got maybe a minute, but at 40,000 feet, just 15 to 20 seconds. It's an absolutely stark reminder of how fragile we can be. So all of this shows us that our bodies are fine-tuned for a very specific home. And when we leave it, things can go wrong, and go wrong fast. But that raises an amazing question, doesn't it? If our bodies can be this fragile when pushed to their limits, what happens when they're allowed to reach their full potential, right here in their natural habitat? This number, this is a clue. 45,000. Just look at that for a second. What on earth could it represent? Well, that's the estimated number of people over the age of 90 living in Florida who scientists are calling super agers. And we're not just talking about people who are surviving into old age. These are people who are absolutely thriving. And scientists are desperate to know how they do it. And let's be super clear about what a super ager is. According to the researchers at the University of Florida, you've got to clear some incredibly high hurdles. We're talking about people over 90 who are still living on their own, whose minds are sharp, and who've managed to dodge almost all the major diseases of aging. They are basically living blueprints for success. And so, as you can imagine, this has kicked off a massive scientific quest. These researchers have this huge real-world laboratory of successful aging right there in their own backyard, and they are determined to unlock the secrets these 45,000 people hold. And they're asking some of the biggest questions in medicine, like this one. Some people carry genes that put them at a super high risk for Alzheimer's, but they never get it. Ever. Something is protecting them. Something is literally silencing that genetic risk. The big question is, what is it? To find the answer, you guessed it, they're looking at everything. Their biology, their genetics, where they live, what they eat, how they live. And what they're starting to find is that there's no single magic bullet. The secret seems to be in this really complex dance between all of these factors, how who we are inside interacts with how we live on the outside. And the goal here is nothing short of incredible. Just listen to this quote from one of the lead researchers. It turns out that hundreds of years after Ponce de Leon was looking all over Florida for a mythical fountain of youth, modern scientists think they might have actually found it, not in some magic spring, but hidden away in the genes and the daily habits of these remarkable people. So when you put it all together, from the deadly vacuum of the upper atmosphere to the amazing lives of people almost a century old, you're really looking at two sides of the very same human coin. Studying how our bodies can fail so catastrophically actually tells us just as much about ourselves as studying how they can succeed so spectacularly. And that leaves us with one last huge question to think about. Is the key to becoming a superager hidden in our daily choices, something we can all learn and do? Or is it locked away in our DNA, just a lucky roll of the genetic dice? The answer, whatever it is, could change what it means for every single one of us to grow old.